going on in Brooklyn's real estate market, and what's this about outgoing tenants helping the renters who take over their apartments?
I like it.
Well, at Brooklyn Bridge Park, just how loud could it get if construction on 2 proposed residential towers actually starts later this week?
Those are rich people problems. Well, New York likes to talk about its small eco footprint compared to other cities, but with the new economy, think Uber and Lyft, for example, does that mean we're going to need a bigger shoe size? Well, these are just a few of the local stories that we're going to get into now with Amy Zimmer of DNA Info New York. Welcome back to BK Live, Amy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Where should we begin?
Yes, where should we begin? You've been doing some great reporting as of late, so tell us what's been going on with you.
Well, so first let's talk about rent.
Right.
Oh, it's
Everyone
too
wants
high.
to talk about
They're
real
going
estate.
down, right? They're going
yeah,
down.
they're going down.
What's his name? Jimmy White Gloves? Mr. McMillan. Okay.
He's not changing the story. It's still too high.
Yeah,
It's
rents
still too
rents are still too high, and they're
Right.
getting higher actually, and part of that is because there's all this new construction, as we know here in this neighborhood.
That's right.
So the building stock in general is getting sort of more luxury, more upscale. So
Right.
it's still really expensive, but now there are these new websites trying to figure out how can we save people some money.
Yeah.
And this startup founded by 2 former Googlers,
Yeah.
people who worked for Google, think they have an answer. It's called Joinery, and
love
what
this idea.
this site does is they connect outgoing renters with incoming tenants. So the outgoing renter will put his or her apartment on this site and make a little bit of money, right? They cap it at half of a month's rent, and then the incoming renter just has to pay that rather than a 15%. broker's fee.
Because I've been reading a lot of your
Yeah.
articles, right? So we're saying the rent is going up and the sales are going up. Now we have joinery. So there was a quote in one of the articles. You said, quoted somebody as saying, it's not a seller's market, it's not a buyer's market, it's a broker's market. But then I juxtapose that
Right.
with the article talking about joinery. So is it a broker's market? And if so, joinery is definitely in the right place at the right
brokers
time.
make money regardless of whatever the situation is. They're always smiling.
Right, the brokers, right. And I think it's a little bit different in the rental market versus the sales market. So joinery is focusing exclusively on rentals. And
peer-to-peer.
I think a lot of people, peer-to-peer, they're also working a lot with landlords directly who are then
Right.
encouraging their tenants to post the apartments, and that cuts down on vacancies.
No.
Yeah, but, and I think for rentals, people feel that brokers, sometimes all they're doing is opening the door for you because a lot of people search.
Well, they used to have
Street-
exclusive listings, but I guess not.
I have
not anymore.
friends
Right.
who are near and dear to me who put food on the table doing this work, and they know how I feel about it because it is like, I'm gonna you how much to do what now? But is this real? Are brokers really being left out of the loop? Do they feel a way about the advent of this sort of technology?
I think there's enough of a pie in Brooklyn that different people can have a piece of it, maybe,
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, this site and others, everyone wants to disrupt the real estate
Right.
industry right now.
Okay. Speaking of disrupting the real estate industry, one thing that always sort of got me was, and joinery, if you're listening, run with this. I won't even ask for a cut. When I leave an apartment and I'm paying $1,500 a month, and then my landlord raises the rent to $1,700 a month just because I live there, so now it's
Yeah.
more valuable, yes? But it's completely false. I wish that there was a way that I could inform that person of what I was paying
Right.
and let them argue back to the person who is going to be renting it to them, my landlord. Because once that $1,500 apartment is gone, there will never
it's
be
gone.
another
It will
$1,500
never again.
apartment in Brooklyn at all.
Right. And so, obviously, so if rent stabilized apartments are subject to rules,
Right.
and the landlords can only increase those apartments so much upon lease renewal or upon a vacancy, whereas it's market rate, and landlords can do whatever. they
Fully
want.
half of us don't even know if our apartments
Yeah, we don't
are
know.
qualified
Absolutely.
for those rent stabilization guidelines.
You can look it up. Am I rent stabilized?
There you go. More news you
.com.
can use. Now, I saw in one of your articles, a real estate insider said that Brooklyn is the new Manhattan,
Right.
and now Queens is
the
the
new
new Brooklyn.
I mean, so in the sales market,
Sales.
things in Brooklyn are so busy.
We've gotten parity.
I mean, seriously.
And
so,
beyond.
yeah, it's so expensive in Brooklyn. I mean, the
Yeah.
median borough-wide was almost $800,000. In the fancy parts of Brownstone, Brooklyn, and Northwest Brooklyn is more than $1 million
Studio,
for
yeah.
the median.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
means
yeah.
half of the people are paying more than that. So that's a lot. And so because of that, you're
Yeah.
seeing the spillover in Queens. I mean, that's really boosting
Yeah.
the market
I mean, you know your
in Queens.
borough's doing good when the borough next to you is just like, good
Exactly.
job.
It
Exactly.
bubbles up. But
Yeah.
one thing that has something to do with real estate and what's happening, is particularly in the commercial corridors down, the Watchtower folks have sort of liquidated their
Right.
cashing
All across the
in.
board,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But
They're
their
moving.
sign, the big Watchtower sign, you know what time it is and what you should
Right.
be wearing,
Right.
is going to go the way of the dodo.
Coming down.
Why?
Well, I mean, they're gone. They're,
Yeah,
they're
but-
leaving. And so the new owners, which includes Jared Kushner's company.
Never heard of them.
They'll put something else there, and who knows what they'll do. They're not commenting
Yeah.
on what's going to replace it, but they're leaving the scaffolding in place. So
In
most
case
likely
Possibilities abound.
something will come back. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
But
watch this
speaking
space.
of the waterfront over there, there's also some things going on down at Brooklyn Bridge Park. Did I understand?
Right, and so there's been a long fight over the residential
Yeah.
buildings, and some obviously are built, including one Brooklyn Bridge Park that's been there for a long time. That's a
Right.
converted building. But next to that building are two towers that are going to rise at Pier 6. This is where Atlantic Avenue is. That's where all those playgrounds are, the water
Yeah.
playground, and you can get
It's
the
a
ferry.
destination.
Yeah, it's
There is a special kind of noise in New York, and I have identified it.
Hmm.
It is that pylon, that boom,
yes.
boom,
It only lasts a
No.
minute.
Okay, so they tested the decibel levels when they put the first 4 pylons in.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, this is louder than a club. You shouldn't be doing this for
Right.
longer than, how long is it, the amount of
Like
time?
15 minutes. It's yeah. I mean, you really shouldn't be exposed to that.
Yeah.
And
loud.
the plan is for 20 to 30 minutes every hour and a half.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm saying there are a lot
For 2
of
months.
rich people who own these properties, and it perplexes me that these people who have so much money to afford these houses are always at home. Shouldn't they be out working somewhere,
they are
earning the
working,
millions
Brian.
that it takes
Who
to
are you to
maintain
judge?
this lifestyle?
Totally right.
Go away. You're at the Hamptons for the summer. Let them put the pylons in.
They are saying they are concerned about the people in the park
Yeah.
as well, and there are all those playgrounds
There's
that
a
are.
playground.
Yeah, and that.
Someone think of the children, please.
And so, you know, during the weekday in the summer, I'm sure a lot of camp groups and
Yeah.
families go there, and so. It would be loud. I mean, I know people who live and work in other areas where they've had construction like this, like the World Trade Center,
Yeah.
who said like 4 blocks away they can feel it, and
You
they
can
have
feel it.
Feel it, yeah. You can feel it. So these pilings are going to go 90 feet deep because the soil is so sandy. It's
Yeah.
you know
It's
waterflood.
sure,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely
So
made up.
and there are hundreds of them that they're going to be
Wow.
putting down there. So it will be loud. It will be loud. We'll see.
We have to
Meanwhile-
put 350.
Right.
But Dumbo, although this isn't like properly Dumbo, is one of the loudest neighborhoods. There's always a train or a helicopter. It's impossible to shoot there. You have to pause every 45 seconds and
Right.
like get it in.
Right.
Diane knows.
And interestingly so, I mean, right, these apartment buildings are meant to fund the
Right.
operation
To
and
keep the
maintenance
park
of the
going
park.
for everybody.
When this park was created, the whole stipulation was that it had to pay for itself.
That's right.
So that's why the city is saying they need the housing, and there will be some affordable units in it as well.
Now, I did read that some people were actually suing, saying that you actually, if it needs to sustain itself, it's already capable of doing that, and we
Right.
don't need the additional money.
Right. So
Who
they're
says
saying
we
that.
don't need the additional money?
So that's the Brooklyn Heights Association. They're going to be in court tomorrow.
Okay.
And they're saying that based on the changes in the real estate market and the other housing that's there already, I mean, you have one Brooklyn Bridge Park, you have other
Self-sufficient.
housing in Dumbo that already they have enough money. The Brooklyn Bridge Park Corporation is disagreeing
They're-
with that.
okay.
So, you know, and it's an expensive park to run. There's a lot there.
To be clear, it is a spectacular park. It's a
Yes.
jewel on the waterfront. So
Yeah.
let's keep it going as best
Now,
we
there's
can.
also some possible real estate. I don't know, when you talk about detention centers, do you consider those units as well? So there's also from
Hot
your
market.
reporting the idea is to close Rikers
Right, exactly.
in 10 years, and
Right.
so they've asked local politicians to come forward.
So
And
what does Steve Levin know that the rest of New York City doesn't, that he's saying, come on?
He's saying, come on, and he's saying, look, it makes sense to expand the Brooklyn House of Detention.
It's already there.
Right, it's already there.
They've already
and
had the fight.
It's, well,
But there's
They had a
they
fight.
had a fight,
Yeah, yeah.
right? They had a fight, and it was supposed to be expanded to 1,500 beds or something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
then there was a lawsuit
And
and
there was
they-
a lawsuit, and they didn't expand it. It's
Yeah.
still there, and so it's going to be contentious. But Steve Levin is saying, look, we're near the courts in downtown Brooklyn. It makes sense more so there than in other parts of the borough. Like every
absolutely
borough
true.
is going to have to take some of this and open up local jails. So, but he's saying it makes sense there, and he believes that the real estate's already doing well around it. It's there are stores
Yeah.
across the
Planet
street,
Fitness
and
and
yeah, exactly.
Art, okay.
The House of Detention will not slow things down in that district from stuff being built.
Right. So we'll see. There's no plan yet on the table, but
Right.
he was the first to come forward and say, "Hey, I support this." So we'll see now what his constituents.
Has anyone else come forward yet?
Not that I know of.
No, the floodgates then open.
Not that I know of.
But Amy, you cover real estate extensively all over the city, and I was struck that I came here, I left my bike here like last Saturday, and I came to pick it up in the morning, and I got off the train at J Street, and it was a full-on neighborhood. People were walking dogs, they
Yeah.
were running, they were working out,
Yeah.
and like I've been here for years, and it used to be a ghost town on the weekends, but where have all the people who populate this section now come from? Are they out-of-towners? Are they folks who came from the suburbs? Are they just kids who like graduated and stayed? Because it's a full-on live,
Right.
work destination now
Totally.
in downtown Brooklyn.
And well, I mean, the city's population is growing and projected to grow. And,
Yeah.
But who are the people that can afford these apartments?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are moving from Manhattan, right? I mean, they're priced out of Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
and so people are moving from there. And there's always every spring people
new
from
wave.
colleges coming to move here. I mean,
Yeah.
I did a piece months ago. New York is the #1 place that college grads want to live still.
There you go.
Still.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah.
Sorry,
When
Detroit.
I graduate, I'm gonna move to New York.
Yeah, and
I want to live in Brooklyn.
Yeah, the economy's pretty good, right? So you have all these new startups
Yeah.
that are opening, and a lot of more companies are in Brooklyn now, right? So
What about the eco footprint then? You've led us
Right.
to the new startups, and what is it doing to
Right.
our like bona fides as a good
Right.
working energy conscious city?
right, and so I think there are a lot of question marks, right? I mean, because people say New York, people don't drive. We live in high dense apartments, so our footprint
so
is
we're
small.
doing it all right.
Transportation. He
But-
rides a bike.
Right, exactly. But now with Uber and Lyft and everyone's getting deliveries, there are a lot of questions. With Uber and Lyft and those kinds of companies, are people, not
slipping.
taking public transit because of that? Are those companies inducing more car trips, or are they not? Or is it just instead of cabs?
And then
instead
and
of-
the
I think we
delivery
are
thing
slipping a
too.
little.
Are
We're
people
slipping a
ordering
little.
Right.
too much Amazon? Are they ordering too much
Seamless.
sort of Grubhub and,
Right.
and Seamless? And then even when I separate my trash,
Right.
how do I know that when it gets taken away, it stays separated?
I don't. Yeah, that's a really good question.
That's a whole other
Yeah,
like.
but it is a
sphere.
question in
Yeah.
terms of like all these new
Keeping the city
businesses
going.
are really changing the way we do business and the amount of waste we produce and the car traffic. I mean, and I think people are grappling with this. I think the city is grappling with this. I think researchers are now just starting to look into people's behavior
Yeah.
and try to figure out what's happening and how can we.
So the data's still sort of coming in. I
Exactly.
do have
That's
to
the
ask
first
you,
step.
Yeah.
and it seems like this happens every year. Maybe it's just me. Can you tell us what's going on with the mayor and his control now of the schools? And this is 2 years now.
So now he has gotten a 2-year extension, which means the school system will stay under mayoral control rather than going back to the old decentralized system where all of the different districts had their own boards and people said there was a lot of corruption. You had to pay to get a position as a principal or an AP. So the mayor says that things like pre-K for all would not have happened under the old decentralized system because there were so many different
Disjointed.
pockets of interest.
All right, so take us home then. Our last 90 seconds. What are you watching? What's been underreported? What's sort of on your radar for this upcoming week? Midsummer,
There you go. Stop it.
half full summer.
What is coming up? So, I mean, I'm still keeping an eye on the real estate market. I cover a lot of that, and so trying to figure out what's going to happen in the fall. Are things going to finally cool down in Brooklyn? I don't know.
Right.
And then just the construction in general. I mean, it's really been interesting to see just how many new units are coming to certain areas, like downtown Brooklyn, and how that's going to transform the area. I mean, if you look at Flatbush now, and all of the businesses,
big
right,
fight,
and all
yeah.
these fitness like SoulCycle's opening, and
So
SLT,
weird.
Strength and Length and Tone, and
Yeah.
Orange Theory, all these high-end.
They're the new Dwayne Reed.
Yeah, I mean, all along Flatbush. It's really interesting to see how things are
It's the
just.
harbinger. You know, it's kind of all those Soul Cycle people can't be contained.
Yeah.
It was all good just a
It's
week ago.
spreading.
It's amazing how New York just always constantly changes.
Okay, Amy, I want to ask you, what is your sort of favorite uncommon economic indicator, or what is, like, if you see this coming with your real estate brain on, you're like, maybe people should think about moving into this neighborhood now.
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah,
I mean,
what is the-
people
Taking
usually.
notes. Come on now. I'm trying to buy it.
Yeah, what's the harbinger?
I mean, people usually look at cafes, right? And coffee shops. That's an indicator, I think. But I don't know. I think now there's just such a backlash, and people are trying to figure out other things. There are these sort of cooperatives popping up where people can figure out a way to invest in affordable housing or affordable real estate. There's one, they're having a public meeting at the Brooklyn Public Library on the 25th, and asking people, what do you want to invest money in to create something that's affordable and sustainable? So, you know, I think people are really looking for alternatives out there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Remember Carlos Menchaca was here talking about the library in Sunset Park, how
Right.
they're including the library in housing and trying to be all things to all people to make community space work for the community
Right.
and their needs. That's a good trend.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be
Thank
on
you.
it if it in fact does become one. Amy
Sure.
Zimmer from DNA
Great
Info
covering.
New
Thank
York.
Thank you.
Great, great
Thank
writing.
you.
Thanks for
Thanks for
joining
having
us.
me.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's a must read.
It's a must read.